following is a paid advertisement program provided by Premier Investments and Wealth Management. An airing of the program is not to be considered an endorsement or recommendation. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily of this station or iHeartMedia. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. The information in the following program should not be construed as an offer to sell and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax advisor or legal counsel.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. My name is Doug Wagner, your host. I'm going to introduce the gentlemen who are in the room with me here for the program today in a matter of moments. But before I do that, I would like for you to go over to premieriwm.com. Whether it's a phone that you're using the iHeartRadio app or maybe you just got it sitting there. Also, you have the tablet that you're using or a laptop or a desktop. Open your favorite browser, premieriwm.com, click Get Started. Answer a couple of questions, and from there, they will provide for you what's called a one-page Premier Vision document. Think of this as your roadmap, your My Financial score, confidence score, so that you can see whether you're ready for retirement or whatever your financial future has in store for you. Doesn't matter with you 35 or 45, 25, even 55. If you have a financial advisor already, get a second opinion. If you don't have one, this is a perfect opportunity for you to take that first step at premieriwm.com or by calling 800-383-6590. With me in the room on the program today, Elias Randall is Vice President and Wealth Advisor at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. He's the new sheriff in town. Sheriff, it's good to see you.
Yes, Doug, good to see you.
Thank
How
you.
are you today?
Very well. Thank you for dismissing that warrant for my arrest.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. It's kind of you.
My pleasure. Anything for you, Doug.
Also here, President and Wealth Advisor at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. He's an accredited investment fiduciary with over 21 years of experience in the financial services industry. The length of his career is old enough on itself to have a beer if it wants to. He's the big kahuna. It's Roger Abel right there.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that introduction. 21, apparently. I mean, is it 18 anywhere? Is it all 21?
No, it's all 21.
It's all 21.
That had to do, it's a Ronald Reagan thing. He shoehorned that. He said, if you want federal money for your highways, you got to up the drinking age to 21 in every single state. You have to up the drinking age, and then you have to take the speed limit down to 55. So two things at once.
Who drives 55 anymore?
Well, not Sammy Hagar.
Oh, my gosh. 55, I can't even imagine going down the road at 55. It's pretty slow.
I know, on First Avenue, nonetheless. I know, believe me. I drive up and down here. It's like a speedway. It's
all these
just
think about the interstates. I mean, if you're going 75 on an interstate, there are people flying by you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
feels like the Autobahn. It makes sure that. Tell you what, better make sure you got life insurance.
I talked to a trooper one time, and actually, I had a flat tire on a boat trailer. This is probably this is like 15 years ago. You know, it was already bad then. Right on the interstate, blown tire, 100 degrees outside. And I asked him, I said, do you pull many people over? He goes, they got to really be speeding.
Yeah.
He goes, it's just not worth me getting them off the road and trying to get them back on the road. If they're doing like 6 or 7 over, like they got to be really going for me to pull them over anymore. But I will tell you the funny thing about that.
Yeah.
Do either one of you guys use Google Maps in your car? Okay, so I use
whatever's on the iPhone for the maps. What I use.
Well, I use Google Maps through my iPhone. But now in Google Maps, you put an address in. It shows what the speed limit is. If you're going 5 miles an hour over, it's in orange. And if you're over 5, it's in red.
Yeah.
Guess who reminds me of my speed all the time from the back seat now?
The daughter.
Oh, yeah. Dad, you're speeding. You're going to get pulled over every single time.
Well, why are you driving so fast?
I'm going 6 over.
By the way,
so 6 over puts you in the red.
Puts you in the red.
Okay.
You're in the red at 6 over.
Congratulations on raising a righteous young lady.
Oh, my God.
Good for you. Well done.
I got pulled over one time a couple years ago, and the girls were really scared. They were really scared.
Were they?
They thought I was going to jail.
Oh, for speeding.
Yeah. The
Dad,
sirens come off, and locally, I got a
pull
warning.
That's good. Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us here on the program worldwide via the free iHeartRadio app. Make an appointment at premieriwm.com, that one-page Premier Vision document. You know what? The nice thing about this, Elias, is that it's very concise, number one. Number two, it's very graphically oriented, if you're graphically oriented, but it also has action items and goals for you to move on, and then aspire to. But I guess the final thing that I would say with regard to the Premier Vision document is that it's something that's made specifically for you, and it's free if you have that one-time, no obligation, no fee meeting.
It is unique and specific to the family we're working with. It is intended to be a simple to understand document. So it's a simplified version of a very complex situation. Mm-hmm. And it is visual. Most people are visual learners, or it's easier to remember things when you can see a visual, like a graph or a chart or something like that. So we do have some visuals on there that help. It just kind of helps bring everything together, all the concepts together. And then the action items are very specific, and sometimes those are short-term action items. Some of them are going to be ongoing action items because, as you know, people's lives aren't static. So some of the future action items are really ongoing conversations and ongoing advice on how we're going to manage these strategies and accomplish all these goals over time. But yeah, it's all those things kind of wrapped up into one-page document. It's really fascinating.
Makes sense. PremierIWM.com. The phone number, in case people want to make an appointment right now, is
800-383-6590.
One of the things that I've learned from my time spending time with my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management is that if you make a mistake early on in your planning for retirement, when you're young, in your 30s and 40s, you can probably recover from it. But if you make a mistake later on, when you're getting close to retirement or when you're in retirement, that makes things a little bit more difficult. So let's take a look at the 7 common retirement spending mistakes to avoid, because, Roger, when you're in retirement, like we just said, you make a mistake, maybe you can come back from it. It depends on how well prepared you are, but B, how big that mistake is. Talk to me about the big retirement spending mistake that you want to hit on first.
It is so simple, but it will be a massive mistake. I is greater than E.
Okay.
Means your income is greater than your expenses. It's really simple. If you have X amount of income coming in, you need to have your expenses less than that.
Okay.
Retirement's not a time to be in debt. A lot of people ask, why not have debt? Well, debt in retirement just increases the risk because you have to manage the debt. When you're working, if you bought a car you couldn't afford, if you bought a house you couldn't afford, really, well, you can sell it. You can get a part-time job. You can work a little longer to pay it off. Right. But, man, you make a big money mistake in retirement, it can be catastrophic because it's a much harder to recover from it. You're likely not going to be able to go back to the same job and get the same pay. So it means you take a job of lesser pay, which most of the time doesn't make up for that mistake. So best plan, know what your expenses are. As people come meet with us about retirement planning, I think the number one thing we talk to them about is you need to have a handle on what your needs are for the next 20 and 30 years. Like, how much do you need to live? What are your wants? What do you want to accomplish in retirement? And what are the things you wish you could do? And if you start to categorize your money in those 3 kind of silos, it makes creating a spending plan a lot easier for retirement.
And you know what? It's critical, Elias, because making sure that you do have a spending plan can really solidify it. So you're not going to be spending too much. It takes some active planning in order to do that rather than just winging it, right?
Well, and winging it is probably the biggest mistake in general investors make. When you're winging it, you're hoping that everything's going to work out. But when you make a plan, and then that plan is in concert with what's important to you, your goals, and your values, Now you have a good plan, and then you have to execute it, right? So we can have the world's greatest plan, but we do need to execute the action items and execute the plan for it to work out. But anyone who's going in, if you're going into retirement and just winging it, you are the door for mistakes, the door for too much risk.
Yeah.
All of those things, they're wide open, and anyone can make a mistake. And depending on what the mistake is and how it impacts your overall situation, you may not have enough time to recover from that or get back to the same lifestyle.
Not only mistakes, but also the unexpected things in life. Say, for example, things that you would traditionally in, the pre-retirement world use an emergency fund for. Some people say, well, do I really need an emergency fund when I'm retired?
So that's a great question. You do need an emergency fund when you're retired. And really, after retirement, or at least beyond age 59 and a half, really everything you have is available. So it's kind of like, it can almost be looked at as, I got this huge emergency fund now.
Right.
Your money should be assigned responsibilities. So whether the emergency fund's in a savings account like it was when you were working, or maybe now you're retired and it's in an investment account, it should be invested appropriately for emergency fund use, right? So you're not going to, for liquidity, and you should be able to make some interest on your cash. But what shouldn't happen is, okay, I have $50,000 that I believe is my emergency fund, and now I'm going to go buy XYZ stock or ABC growth mutual fund, and I'm
or
going
that $35,000 car.
Or use your emergency fund to go buy a vehicle or something like that.
Well, if somebody did though, they would just need to go raise more cash to provide more liquidity. That's really
but
just
if you're
having
retirement though. That's the
but doesn't
problem.
matter. That's still you're creating a spending strategy at that point.
Okay.
If think about what the emergency fund does while you're working, or let's say you have this so-called emergency fund until time of financial independence. Once you're financially independent, you have enough money to tackle whatever comes at you. Okay. So then what you're doing is you're managing your emergency fund for liquidity, so that we don't run the risk of having a big event come and we have to sell our growth mutual fund or a stock to fund that event. Okay. So that's really the difference. It's a mind shift. It's all about managing liquidity at that point. It's not making sure I have enough money if I get laid off, because when I'm retired, so I don't have income anymore. Like, it's what I have to live on. Right. So you're managing liquidity with that emergency fund at that point.
You can't get laid off from retirement, can you?
No. No, you can. Well,
but it might be pretty awesome. You get unemployment then?
Yeah.
Do you think you can file for unemployment from retirement?
I think that's 6 feet below. So that might be that.
One thought I had is, you guys were talking about that. One of the things I think people should look at is, try to break your money out from what kind of income you're getting. Because there's really 3 types of income in retirement. There's the guaranteed income sources or stable income sources, so pensions and your Social Security, right? So those are the dependable ones where you can start to build a budget and say, hey, I know I have these coming every month. But then people have likely accumulated a 401k or some other type of investment out there. That investment, you can't look at as I can just go spend however much I want from this pool of money. You need to figure out how much can I take from this pool of money each month so I don't deplete it, because that money just is creating income. So that's the second bucket of money. Okay. Guaranteed income sources, you've got your investment income sources. And then if you're working a part-time job, that could be your third income source that you're starting to plan this budget for retirement from. But you need to think about, the safe income sources, our variable income sources, and then any type of work we're going to do after retirement too.
Do you ever feel like your financial goals are just out of reach? It's time to take control of your future with Premier Investments and Wealth Management, your partner in financial independence. Imagine a financial plan that's as individual as you are. At Premier Investments and Wealth Management, our team of experienced advisors will work closely with you to create a roadmap tailored to your dreams. We'll help simplify complex financial concepts, provide clear guidance, and empower you to make informed decisions. Financial wellness is within your grasp. Visit www.premieriwm.com to schedule a meeting with an experienced advisor today.
That's Roger Abel. I'm talking with him and Elias Randall from Premier Investments and Wealth Management at premieriwm.com. You can make an appointment with them online at the website, even get a picture of them so you can see who you're going to be talking to. I would encourage you to click Get Started, fill out the information. The one-page My Financial Premier Vision document is something that you're going to need. It comes along with a free, no-obligation consultation. You can take that with you at the end of it. It's absolutely no problem at all. Phone number to call if you don't want to make the appointment online, you'd like to talk to somebody, schedule that is 800-383-6590. Roger sort of got into the next thing I was going to talk about, the 7 common retirement spending mistakes to avoid. One of them is just this concept that I had really no clue of when I was a kid, or I think that even my parents did when I was younger, the idea that you have to continue investing through your retirement at this point. I mean, when people had pensions, you didn't really have to do anything like that. But now in the sort of wild west of the 401k and the IRAs and everything else like that, you have to continue to invest even into your retirement so that A, you don't outlive your money, and B, so that you make sure that inflation doesn't just mow down the flowers for the money that you have.
I think it's one of the biggest psychological challenges that people have, because they get to retirement and they feel like now is the time that I should become less aggressive or super conservative. Mm-hmm. They feel like their time horizon's over. Realistically, if you're married 65, you've got about a 35% chance that one of you is going to make it till 90 years old. So your time horizon for your money is likely 25 years. There's some people that are going to spend more time in retirement than they actually did working. Think about that. If you retired at 56, you could be retired longer than you worked. So you can't just go into a protectionism mode. And I think it's one of the number one things we're trying to hammer out with the financial planning we're doing for people is, what is your risk capacity? So how much risk do you need to take to accomplish your goals, your dreams and desires, and still not run out of money, compared to what's your risk tolerance, and then blend the two together to give somebody confidence that this is going to work out. That's one of the main things we're trying to accomplish with this planning, is managing expectations and not going into protectionism mode unless they can.
You know, something else, Elias, too, is thinking about managing expectations. I think a lot of people, especially you go into retirement, we tend to live longer, but that doesn't mean that you don't have medical issues coming down the line, and some of those can be fairly expensive. One of the things that the people don't necessarily plan the best for, if they're on their own or without a wealth advisor or financial planner, they're not planning for those medical expenses. You have software that obviously doesn't guarantee everything, but that factors in their age, their health, a little bit of their genealogy as well, help them get a handle on what their expected health care spending might be and how to save for that.
Well, anytime you plan for potential future expenses, you're going to be better off than if you don't plan for it. So whether it's health, whether it's potentially loss of a spouse in the future, because when that time comes, your income will change, at least in one way. Yeah. Anyone who's taking Social Security, if you're married and a spouse passes away, you're going to lose the smaller Social Security check. If you do have some sort of pension income, depending on how that was set up, there may be a change to that pension income. That may remain the same. Just depends on how all that was set up. But, anytime you don't have a formal plan for your spending strategy, for your investing strategy, you're going to have an outcome, right? We talk all the time. You're going to have an outcome. Yeah. May not be an optimal outcome that you wanted. And then the other thing I want to kind of tack on with some things Roger was just talking about with spending, and that when you have a well-crafted distribution strategy, you've assigned responsibility for your money, it can last. It can also help you make other decisions. And you mentioned purchasing a vehicle. Well, if I'm retired right now and I want to go out and buy a new vehicle and I need $40,000 or $50,000, and I'm looking at my portfolio, and then I look at the performance of the last 12 months, and if you have growth investments in the stock market, you should have done well certainly last 12 months, right? Well, maybe let's not be greedy and think, you know what, let's just hold on a little bit longer, see how much further this bull market goes.
Right.
You have something you already know you want to do. Sell some of those winners and go buy it.
Yeah.
Go buy it. Take some chips off the table, sell things that are winning in your portfolio, and go use that money for that instead of maybe using something that's already like an emergency fund or in cash.
Thought we were supposed to wait till after the election to make any purchases.
Well, that's
what I hear from everybody.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait and see what happens. Think about this. I think that was a really good point. You're just like, well, if you know you're going to need it, just sell it and go buy it. How many people have you heard in the last 30 to 45 days that they know they need equipment? They need something.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I'm going to wait and see what happens with the election. If you need a new car now, what's the outcome of the election going to have to do with any of it?
Nothing.
And I actually started thinking about this. I had a client who is a county supervisor, and they need some equipment. And everybody's like, well, let's just wait and see what happens after the election. And he's like, why? If we need a snowblade, we need it now, just like we need it in November. What's the point in waiting?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's such an every 4 years when the presidential election comes up, it's just, there's so much media coverage about it. It really starts to just consume people's thoughts. And that's a great example. If you, like the county supervisor knows that we are going to need to update some of our snow removal equipment, and then, well, let's wait till after.
That's not what he said, but the other people around him
We're saying
Yeah,
that.
no, I
and he's
get
just
that.
like, why are we waiting? Like, it's not going to be any different today than in
Right. I agree.
35 days. How's it going to affect our decision making?
Right. I agree with his perspective. We need the machinery. We're going to be putting it to work. Regardless of the election, it's going to cost what it costs.
Yeah.
And you can bring it to your own hometown, and you can bring it to your own home as well, as far as what we're talking about here.
You know,
Roger.
something I was discussing with this client, which I think probably overlaps with individuals and spending, is he made a comment. He goes, 3 years ago, if we needed equipment, we bought brand new equipment because it didn't make sense to buy used equipment and fix it. He goes, but the price of everything today, now we're likely looking at used equipment and trying to figure out how to put money into what we have or to fix it, because the price of new things has gotten so expensive. Inflation's taking such a big bite out of it. And I think there's probably a lot of households out there that are dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, I need a new truck, or I need to do some work to my truck, but I don't really want to go spend $65,000 on a truck. I'll go fix the radiator or whatever needs to get fixed versus going and buying a new one. And I think, if more households approached it that way, they probably don't run the risk of overspending in retirement.
Exactly. Roger Abel and Elias Randall from Premier Investments and Wealth Management, we were talking about the 7 common retirement spending mistakes to avoid. Sort of hit on 2 of them here a second ago, and the importance for you to get in touch with a financial professional at Premier Investments and Wealth Management to talk about things like medical spending, long-term care management, financing for things like that. And on top of that, you know what? If you're married, your spouse will die someday, and that's just inevitable. And you need to figure out how the retirement income comes from that point. There are so many different permutations that go into this. You know what? You could make a study of it on your own if you want to, but you've got better things to do with your life, like living it now, making sure that your kids are well taken care of, making sure you're doing your work to prepare for your retirement. Let my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management handle all the details like this. Sit down with them. They'll help you prepare the plan for your long-term care and medical financial, plus what to do in the future with Social Security and what happens if and when one of you passes away. 2 mistakes people make by being too frugal in retirement. Roger, this is something that was really interesting, is that I guess we talked about it a little bit, is that rule of 4, I guess, is that what it was in the past?
4% withdrawal rule?
Yeah, 4% withdrawal rate. Maybe it was that way before, but now things are completely different.
I think that the 4% withdrawal rate is not that great. Sure, it's an outcome, and I guess there's some math behind why it works. I'm much more in the camp of tailoring a financial plan to your specific needs. I think the 4% withdrawal rule just brings the opportunity to underspend into retirement or overspend in retirement. We don't really know. So why wouldn't you get a plan done? I mean, I ask people this question all the time. Find me someone who's 84 years old. How much do they spend? The answer every time is not much.
Yeah.
And it's not that they can't. People should just be looking 10 and 15 years into the future of retirement. And realistically, what are we going to be doing? Are you going snow skiing to Keystone at 84? When was the last time you saw an 84-year-old on a mountain? You didn't.
No,
You just
you're
don't.
right.
No, and I will ask people this sometimes, and it's not a question to suggest that you should just spend recklessly, right? We're just talking about overspending. But I've asked a lot of people if, let's say they're 65 for ease of conversation. In 20 years, you're 85 years old. You've lived a great life, done everything you want to do. You're 85 and you no longer have any investment accounts. Are you really going to care at that point? Like, especially all your debt's paid off.
They might not make it to that point.
Right.
Well, right. They might not make it, but kind of the point is there's not that many people, unless they're spending money on like care and stuff like that are spending a lot of money when they're in their 80s.
Right.
You're not physically able to go do the things you want to do anymore.
I love to fish. Do you think I'm going to have the ability to take my boat out by myself at 85 and go fishing as much as I do today?
I hope so, but you probably won't.
I won't.
Yeah.
And will I have the same boat that I have today? No, it's a big fiberglass boat. I'm going to have to go to like a small boat that person doesn't have lots of strength anymore.
John boat or something.
You're going to have to switch boats. I've actually seen it happen. People I know who fish a lot, as they get older, they get a smaller boat because it's easier for them to do by themselves. They don't have to walk off the front. And just everything changes. Frankly, when I'm 85, boy, I sure hope I get up and have a nice coffee, sit on the porch, watch a deer or two, catch a crappie out of a pond. I might not even have a boat.
It's fine.
But it just goes to show the difference because, okay, now you don't have a boat, you don't have insurance, you don't have title registration, there's no gas, you don't need as much tackle. Like all the cost just is cut immensely if that happens.
This is planning that, again, you could do if you want to, but the folks at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, they do it for themselves and they do it for hundreds of clients all over the place. You can be one of them. PremierIWM.com, click on Get Started, and then answer a couple of questions. They'll provide for you the one-page My Premier Vision document. The whole point of that is that you've got your roadmap for the future. They'll also go over it with you, and you can take it home with you after a free, no-obligation consultation. Make that appointment online by doing the Get Started after going to PremierIWM.com, or you can call 800-383-6590. Here's what it comes down to in the final seconds. Does your birth certificate have an expiration date? I hope not. If it does, I would like to see it. What they can do is they can help you make sure you get the most out of your life because it's not really predictable. But that's what intense financial management does. Wealth advisors from Premier Investment and Wealth Management are there for you from the very beginning to the end and then beyond. Thank you for joining us this week. For Roger Abel, for Elias Randall, my name is Doug Wagner. We'll talk to you next week at the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Program.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There's no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.